I talk about ball joints on a 94 to a 2004 Mustang. And it's not uncommon that the ball joints will fail on these cars. There's a few things that you need to be aware of. First and foremost, if your ball joint has failed on an older car like this car here, which is almost 30 years old, you shouldn't just replace the ball joint. You need to replace the whole entire control arm. There's bushings on the pivot themselves that they can get worn out, and they will cause the ball joint to fail too. So if you have an old car and original control arms, you really need to replace the whole entire thing and not just the ball joint. Now, if you go over a curb, or say you had something weird happen and the ball joint stops working, of course you can buy kits for ball joints. They're about $40, and they're an easy way to do it and a cheaper way to do it. And there's a couple things you need to be aware of though. Why most ball joints fail, obviously if you go over taking out curbs or accidents or anything like that, is that the nut itself is not tightened enough. So because the way the control arms work, it's not uncommon that if you go to pull the actual control arm out, when you put the control arm back, because the spring is under load here, you have to attach it back to the strut. And that can prevent you from getting the right amount of pressure on the nut itself. So at this point, on my cars, a year after I put new control arms on, I always go back a year later and retighten the ball joint nuts. It's just uncommon that they go loose over a period of time. So I always recommend, if a car is driven a lot, especially maybe you do it a month later. These cars aren't driven on very often, so they don't need to be worried about as much. But it's not uncommon you get squeaks and your power steering will start making some weird noises, which really are a sign that you need to check your ball joint nuts. So I'm going to go ahead here and show you how to tighten ball joint nuts. So the first thing I will say is I've replaced the end links already. Do not remove your end links if you're going to do this. If you remove the end links, what will happen is this arm, once you release the strut bolts, it'll end up slamming down to the ground, and it can actually raise the car even if you have a jack underneath it. So make sure your links are in place, they're good, and that they can hold. You'll need 2 jacks to do it. You'll need a jack to obviously bring the car up, and you'll need a jack to put underneath the knuckle when you raise it. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking this apart and show how to tighten that nut back down, the proper way to do it, and some other concerns that you need to be aware of when you're doing this. So what I'm going to do is just jack it up a little bit right now and get some pressure on that lower control arm. Just enough to raise it a little bit, but not too much to start. And there we go. Top bolt. And then the bottom bolt was a 24 and a 21 wrench. Okay.
I'll show you.
Now I'm going to remove the bottom one. So at this point, bolts won't move, and what that is because they're under too much pressure. So what you have to do is keep lifting this until pressure on the other side lifts this arm up. So if you look at the car, you can film out, let's see what I do is I have the car only as high as it can go, as close to the ground. So when I lift this up, it's going to put pressure on the other tire to actually allow me to put pressure up to get these bolts out. So right now, they won't come out until I release pressure on it. Well, there we go. That's why I didn't come. This is an adjustment bolt on this car, which means the car's got to be realigned. And now the bottom one comes out easily. So what you have to do, go ahead and film from up here. You have to move. Look down in there, at the very top, you'll see the nut. And what I'm going to do on that nut right there is I'm going to tighten it down to 149 foot-pounds. So I'm going to start at like 109. The manual says 109. You have to go higher on this, so you'll be in trouble, because at 109 it has a tendency to get loose. So I'm going to go ahead and retighten it. It's a 21. So what you'll need is I'm going to take my torque wrench. I'm going to start at 120 and move up to 149 and go from there. 120. Now I'm going to go up to 130. 130. Now I'm going to 140. 149. All right, 149. So now I've retightened it, and I could put this thing back together. I generally like to use Loctite on any bolts I'm using. The problem with Loctite, when you put the bolt and you put it in, it's not uncommon that the actual ball joint will spin. So you really can't use Loctite when you're putting the bolt on. I use red Loctite, which you should really use sparingly, on the top of the bolt, a few drops, just to hold it in place. Okay, that's it. And that's just to hold it, nothing more. Keep it from coming loose. See if bringing it, that looks closer to being right. Yeah, it looks a lot better, doesn't it? Okay, the bottom one's in. I'm going to put the top one in. All right, now the top one's in. All right, that's the top one in. So 191. That's 191 on the bottom. And the importance of torquing is right here. You notice I moved it quite a bit, and without torquing it would have came loose. All right, at this point, I've tightened the ball joint, I've reconnected the strut, and I'm going to put the tire back on, and I'm good to go on this. So that's how you tighten a ball joint nut on a 95 or a 94 to 2004 Mustang. Thank you.
So if you like this video, go ahead and smash the like button below. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell if you want some notifications. See you next time on Chasing Mustangs.
Thanks.
All right.
Great job.
Yeah, I see it like literally every day.